What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 165 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and joining me, of course, is Gaara, my co-host. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Just having an amazing time playing Hearthstone every day.
Man, positive attitude. So good, so good. And we've got an old friend returning. It's been a while, but Firebat's back on the show. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about all this stuff and things.
Yeah. Lots and lots of meta, or lots of the same type of meta, at least recently. But we've got some big news, though, to talk about, which I think a lot of people weren't expecting, which has to do with Ben, as well as like the Monster Hunt, some changes to Shudderwock that, maybe some of us anticipated or not. But then most of this show, guys, we're going to talk about meta, of course, just the Witchwood meta and some of the decks we're seeing, highlighting a card today. We're going to be highlighting Lifedrinker and some of the decks some good decks that are actually coming from it. And then we got some Q&A at the end. Oh, we got maybe underrated, overrated. We'll see if I didn't even get a chance to talk to you guys too much about that, so maybe we can kind of do that on the fly. Q&A at the end. But I want to just let folks know that this episode is sponsored by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is a job site that if you're looking for somebody to hire, this is going to be definitely a great place for you to do so. And we'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. Obviously, also, Valuetown is part of HSReplay.net, so go and check out HSReplay when you get a chance to find out the latest stats in Hearthstone. Okay, so our week in Hearthstone, what have you guys been up to? Like, just grinding away ladder? You guys trying to make the end of the month push like right now? It's actually within a week, so it's usually the time frame, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I got to top 50 on NA today.
Okay,
200
that's
on
great.
Asia.
All right.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay.
Like,
It's okay. All right.
yeah, I don't know. Like, you still need to get like to top 10-ish. Then you can camp maybe top 20. Who knows? Like, maybe Blizzard will change the system again.
Well, that's the
3
thing.
days
Like,
before the end.
after what happened to you last month, Gaara, like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't you want to push to higher earlier this time around?
I'm just playing now. Like, I don't really care anymore.
Okay.
Like, that was very frustrating, unfortunately. But yeah, I just do. Like, it's kind of like a routine. You're so used to it. I don't even think about it anymore. Like, you just look at the calendar. You're like, okay, 5 days to go. Guess I'm gonna play a lot of tier 1 decks the next time. And yeah.
You know, when you stop caring, sometimes that's the time where things just happen for you. You know, like the things that you want to happen. Firebat, how about you, man? Like, what you been up to in terms of Hearthstone?
For most of the season, I've been playing kind of meme decks, kind of doing my own thing, experimenting a lot. Most of my experiments have failed, which has been kind of a bummer. So I was at around like 2,500. And then over the last 2 days, I started doing the whole try-hard stuff. Got to 500, and then got to 200 yesterday. So, slowly progressing my way up, trying to play pretty much everything. Playing some even Paladin, playing odd Paladin, tried the new Murloc Paladin.
Don't get too crazy there, guys, with those decks.
Yeah. Did Control Warlock. Didn't actually do any Cube Warlock, just the Controlling Warlock.
Yeah.
And then... what else did I play? I did the combo Mind Blast Priest.
Yeah,
which was a mistake.
What? Really?
It was kind of fun, but Quest Rogue is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. Control Warrior. Quest Rogue is a bummer for that deck too, so that was unfortunate.
Anything with the word control prefacing the class is going to be a problem for.
And then finally got to Burn Mage, which has been the most successful for me so far.
Yeah, Burn Mage. We're going to be talking about that with the Lifedrinker talk. So cool. Yeah, for me, I've been, it was so funny because I had like this one day where I'm just like, just got these shaman quests in my queue, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna just like reset one of them, and I kept getting shaman ones, so I ended up with 3 shaman ones eventually. So I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta actually do this now. So put together like an elemental shaman just because I couldn't think of any. I didn't want to play Shudderwock shaman for sure. And even shaman is such a Frankenstein looking deck that I just like, I'm just gonna put together an elemental shaman. Anyways, I ended up having a little bit of success, so it was kind of fun. Getting to play that and just learning a few more things about. It's more just like what shaman would need for something like an elemental shaman to be good. So that was a little bit definitely some fun there. And then I've been playing the mage today because of you, Firebat. So Mage's pretty fun. It's fun winning, you know. It's underrated winning, winning and having fun. But let's talk about news. So big news, which really should have been. I should have just had like one topic on my topic bar here. But Ben Brode announced that he's leaving Team 5, or his last day was like the other day. It was on April 20th, and I think that was a surprise to many in the community. I even know that it was a surprise to a few people even on the PR team. So, which kind of surprised me too, or at least in that community PR team. So yeah, Ben Brode leaving. Just your thoughts. I mean, I definitely have a lot, but Firebat, what's your feelings on Ben leaving Team 5?
Now, I'm sad to see him go. He's like a really smart dude. If you've ever had the chance to interact with him, you know, he was like the face of Hearthstone, as well as the game director, just the big social media presence and all of that stuff for Hearthstone in general, which is pretty impressive. But I'm also looking forward to change. You know, if there's one way to shake things up in Hearthstone, the game director leaving is a pretty good way to do it. Obviously, things are going to be, you know, different, whether that's, you know, for the good or the bad. Things will definitely be different with whoever kind of takes the place of Hamilton Chu and Ben Brode. So I'm hopeful that it changes in a positive way. But in my opinion, because this is something I do for as many hours as I do it, any change is really good change for me, because I just like things being kind of fresh. So with these people leaving and new people eventually coming in to, you know, take over, I think it's going to be slightly different Hearthstone in the future, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Gaara, what's your take?
I also met like Ben once, and he's like such a positive human. He's basically in real life the same as you see him on streams. He's like always laughing, and he's also incredibly smart. And I wasn't too sad about it, because it was his own free choice. He just wants to move on and do different stuff. Like he wants to start his own company, design games again from scratch. So it's basically just, you know, like a life decision. He didn't feel like fulfilled anymore. So like no hard feelings. It wasn't like he was kicked or anything. But yeah, it's definitely a big hit for Blizzard and for Hearthstone, because he was literally the face of Hearthstone. And I don't even want to know how much money they made more just because of Ben. Like,
Yeah.
he really got people pumped up to buy Hearthstone packs. And yeah, and he was also always cool in the review streams and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I really wonder what kind of impact this will have on the game, like him leaving. Like, we can't really know, because we don't really know what is happening behind the scenes, how things are happening, like who is creating what who is responsible for what. Like, he was the lead designer, but what kind of impact this will have on Hearthstone as a game, like, we can't know yet. So
yeah, I mean, I think so. My impressions of Ben leaving is like definitely sad. You know, like Ben's, for all of us that have been there from the start, Ben's been there. Like, he's literally been the, you know, most magnanimous character from the Blizzard team, and we've always associated Blizzard Team 5 with Ben Brode. You know, no matter if he was the game director or not. It sounds like ever since he took over the game director, or at least most recent times, you know, maybe in the last year and a half, it sounds like he hasn't done as much designing, you know, and balancing, and it sounds more of managing, and, you know, just making sure, you know, the expansions come out, you know, probably working really close with Yongwu and making sure all these things are happening, right? So it sounds like he was missing that, really, just the whole developer aspect of it, designer, you know, just that whole part of it. And I can totally see that. You know, Ben definitely seems like a guy that's, you know, I think more suited for, you know, just either in there, you know, like doing all this design, or maybe even something that's more along the lines of like personality, you know, and doing something like that. And I think with managing the team, it was kind of like he was doing the same kind of things and representing the team with his personality, but still having to manage everybody too, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, overall, it's just like, man, Ben, I feel like he was doing a lot of things that you can't really put down on paper. like doing these videos and stuff, like nobody's going to make videos better than Ben, like these developer insight videos. And then in some ways, I feel like Ben's been like when he was kind of pushed out and like, when he was basically the face of Team 5 when they chose to make him the face of Team 5. He's kind of stemmed off a lot of the negativity, like there used to be a lot of times where people would just be like, all over Team 5. And I don't know. I felt like Ben's been able to keep that at bay just because of him, and just how people revere him and just his personality and things like that. So I'm wondering if that will, be a problem, in the future without him there. But I'm hopeful though. I'm definitely hopeful that we do see something different. I don't think the cards will be any different. I think that the last year's been really good, in terms of just the kind of expansions and how they've been going. But hopefully the new person that comes in, I don't know if it'll be a brand new person or it'll be just somebody from the team that takes over, will at least instill maybe some different things like you're hoping, Firebat, some new ideas that might come to the table. I don't think it'll be too different though. I think they'll probably do it very much the same as what's been happening, just because it's probably been working in their eyes.
I mean, I don't think the way they're doing it is bad right now by any means. I think definitely Hearthstone's a really solid game. The directions they've been taking, the card designer, all been fine. I just like change. So I may be in the 1% with this, but I just like change, and I'm hoping new leadership causes new directions, new ideas, new anything. I think is just awesome. I love new. So even though I think that Ben's work is great, and I'm really sad to see him go, I think that everything is fine. New is just appealing to me because I get burned out on Hearthstone too quickly because I play it too much.
That's right. No, I totally hear you. But anyways, good luck to Ben. And I'm sure whatever he does, he's going to do well just with the crazy amount of passion that he has for everything he does. And, thanks, Ben, for just everything you've done for Hearthstone. I mean, it's changed all our lives, the three of us. So, it's awesome. Okay, next bit of news. Next bit of news we got is we have, let's see, the Monster Hunt. So Monster Hunt was officially announced. They made a video about it. And, just kind of going through just more details than the post that they had a few weeks ago. So 45 bosses, and they're all going to be different. They'll have their own flavor, which is really cool. Dungeon Run, was pretty similar, but less bosses. And then we have the 4 new classes, which will be like Tess and some of basically the legendary cards that we have right now, the class legendaries. And so Tess Greymane will actually be a rogue, but she'll have a different hero power. So we'll have 4 of those, and you just try to finish the dungeon run with each of those. And if you finish them with all 4 classes, then you unlock a final challenge against Hagatha, which nobody knows what it's like or what the reward is. They haven't described it. I think they might have said what reward it is, but they haven't described what it's going to be like. So it's kind of what we're looking forward to tomorrow. It should be coming out sometime tomorrow, maybe in the early afternoon. So you guys looking forward to it, Gaara?
I also like the way how they did it this time, that they didn't release everything at the same time, because like all the constructed players usually just jump right into ladder and playtest new decks. So now that it gets like a little bit stale again, that they come up with something new and fresh, I'm pretty sure that more people will be interested in doing the new dungeon run.
Yeah, the dungeon run in the last set was one of the most popular game modes. A lot of people really loved it, myself included. So it's pretty sweet that they, understand, hey, a lot of people like this. Let's do this again and try and improve upon it and build upon it. So I'm really excited to be able to play the dungeon run mode tomorrow. I think it'll be a nice change of pace from my normal streaming stuff. So it's really cool. Hopefully it's as challenging as Dungeon Run was, because the last Dungeon Run had a nice balance between how difficult it actually was. I hate the single player content. It's just like, if you spend enough time, you always win. That's my least favorite kind of single player content. So hopefully it is at least pretty challenging. That's the only concern I have.
Yeah, and last time we even had an event, that Dan was hosted, right? In terms of just just who was the best at Dungeon, or who could at least get the furthest with their runs and stuff. So that was actually cool, and it was for a lot of money too. So I'm hoping Dan will arrange something again, Frodan, that is, for guys that don't know what I'm talking about. And we can figure out just, again, like who can have the best run and have fun with it, people streaming it and things like that. We had some of the most epic just fails, I think, for leading up to it, people practicing, having these awesome runs, and then they just fail on the first run or something like that, which is pretty brutal. But there's a whole meta that evolves around this, monster hunt dungeon run. And it's really, really, really cool. Like once people start to formulate that and, figure out, oh man, which bosses do you want to run into and, which powers you want against those bosses. I hope it's like even more diverse than last time, meaning like you don't just pick the same ones over and over and over again, and they're just good across the board. And that'll be really, really cool so that, you can actually have a guide to how to, finish this monster hunt too. But that's tomorrow, guys. Definitely be on the lookout for that. Another thing that Blizzard announced was Shudderwock animation. So they changed it. This is the thing that everybody was like, okay, what are they going to change? Are they actually going to buff this or nerf this, or what are they going to do? Well, they changed the animation, basically. So not going to change the win rates of the class, but, definitely change maybe how painful it can be to play against it. If you're just like hopeful that you're going to still have a chance to win and, have to wait through the, 1 minute worth of animation at times. Any thoughts on this, guys? I mean, there's a little changes to like Lifedrinker too, but
it's cool how fast the response time was on the animations taking really long. So it's kind of a bummer that it happened in the first place, that like, they didn't test this. Like, what's going on here? How did they not see that this animation was ridiculously long? So that's a little troublesome to think about. It's like they had to play the card to figure that out. That was not that challenging to just play it once to figure that out. So something messed up along the lines there. But the fact that they, got it fixed so quickly is really sweet. Really makes you wonder about why balance changes take so long. But it's awesome that they're improving upon things and making changes quickly.
This makes me wonder if people should just be more angry in the future, because like Reddit was just full of complaints about Shudderwock animation, right? And 1 week later, easy fix. Maybe people should complain about the meta or something more. I don't know. We will get faster balance changes. This seems to be the number one reason or the number one thing people hated about the current expansion, and they fixed it. So props to them, and I wonder if people will be happy now.
I mean, it doesn't change that much, right? It just, the complaints go down, and that's about it, right? Like, I don't think anything really changes too much with Shudderwock.
The problem was the deck that this guy's toes played that abused the animation times to rope the opponent's turn, basically to win through the animation length, not because of the OTK of Shudderwock. And this is what,
I mean,
like he played like Mad Bomber and stuff. He didn't play an OTK Shudderwock Shaman, but something that drops the opponent's turn, and that's like really lame. And this is the whole reason why.
No, I mean, I think just generally speaking, though, like just having to wait through that has just been painful, and it's not as like fun as say like Yoxaron was. Yoxaron was
even when you're winning.
Yeah.
Even when you're winning, the fastest way to like finish the game is to log out of your game client. Like this is what everyone is doing. Then you play Shudderwock, you have to just log out.
You can't concede
you have
mid?
to log out.
Oh, that's what it was. I thought you could concede. Like,
but even if you're winning.
Oh, like even if you're winning. Oh, you mean if you're winning? Oh, yeah, you mean if you're winning? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to close the game client.
You can't concede on your turn. Yeah, okay. That's pretty terrible. Right. Yeah. So, anyways,
nobody's winning with Shudderwock, so that's not too big of a problem.
Exactly. But there's still a lot of people playing it, though. If you look at the popularity list, it's still super high for Shudderwock, which is like
the hype of it at the very beginning of the expansion made a lot of casual players say like, "Wow, this is the best deck. I'm gonna craft Shudderwock," and they craft Shudderwock, and now they're stuck with it. That's their only legendary, man. They just gotta like rock in the Shudderwock. That's all they got.
Yeah. That's crazy. No, but I mean, I don't know. It's still carrying over. I mean, it's going down. It's definitely gone down quite a bit, but it's still fairly relevant in terms of people playing it. I thought it would just like be completely gone at this point, but some people still.
I hope they would have
play it.
announced more though than just Shudderwock Change. I think that's like the little bit
But Lifedrinker,
a
man.
bit of
Lifedrinker
I mean,
speeds up
everyone
too.
wants to know about what's happening with Warlock, what's happening with Paladin.
Yeah.
No
What's happening
news
with
on that.
Questrogue?
What's happening with Questrogue? There's just nothing. No word or hint towards any sort of nerf or any sort of transparency or any sort of, hey, we're looking into this, or maybe we think this is unhealthy and we want to maybe do something. Nothing. Just dead silence about that. They don't even seem to register that it's an issue.
Yeah. So I bet the reason is they're waiting to see, collect all the data, right? It hasn't been quite 2 weeks yet, and I mean I think that's valid. Like I don't know if I would you want them to make a change like after 9 days and 10 days in an expansion? I mean I think that's too soon.
I think it's probably too soon as well,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
You usually want it to change from what it is now.
I'm waiting for the announcement. I'm not really super thrilled about the meta.
Yeah, the
so
meta.
I want to see an announcement within the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, then maybe I'll start thinking about picking up the pitchfork. Right now it's like in the closet,
Oh boy.
and we'll get the pitchfork out of the closet next week. And one more week after that, maybe we'll think about raising it. And then the week after that, it's definitely going up. So.
Right.
It's getting there.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about meta in a second. It seems like this last week, I feel like things just like completely settled when it's gone a bit stale. Once the rise of the quest rogue just like was in place, basically. We were only seeing it rising the last episode that we did. Now we just see it like firmly in place, and we've got this meta that's a little stale right now, but speaking of which, why don't we talk a little bit about meta and week 2? So we've got not quite done with week 2. Week 2 would be tomorrow, just the official 14 days. But right now, we're seeing a lot of Paladin, Cubla, or just Warlock and Quest Rogue, right? Those are like the triumvirates right now that we're seeing, which. I was talking to you earlier, just both of you, at least the last couple of days, that, feels kind of like rock, paper, scissors again, like getting into that type of dynamic where it's just, you just play one of those three, depending on what you're playing more of at the time, you play the counter to that. What's your thoughts on it? Is it really a rock, paper, scissors meta right now, Firebat?
I think almost every meta in Hearthstone always turns into some sort of rock, paper, scissors sort of thing, or at least close to that. By the end of it, this one happened a lot quicker than it usually does. But one of the biggest downsides of this rock, paper, scissors-y kind of meta is it's not like 60-40s. There's like 90-10s all over the place. And I don't know about everyone else, but for me, that blows to play 90-10 from either side. Like I just don't enjoy it from either side because it feels like my decisions don't matter at that point. I would much prefer a bunch of 60-40 matchups or a bunch of like 55 matchups. But when you're playing Quest Rogue and Control Warrior against each other, the Quest Rogue is going to win almost every single time. Mm-hmm. So these kind of matchups I don't like at all. They find them like super unhealthy. And there's another matchup there on the screen. You can see Odd Rogue versus Quest Rogue. If you're playing the Odd Rogue against the Quest Rogue, you're going to win 75% of the time. Yeah. So these kind of matchups I think are unhealthy, and I think they don't leave either player feeling like they did much. You don't feel satisfied, and these happen in, I'd say, a lot. Maybe like 30% of the games, 40% of the games I played in the last 200 games I've played. I felt like none of my decisions mattered, and I had lost or won the game based on which deck I've selected.
All right, Gaara, your take.
Yeah, I feel like the meta changed like from one day to another as soon as the Quest Rogue became like popular again. I think some players reached rank 1 legend and then it spread like wildfire. And then as soon as that happened, it really changed instantly. Everyone stopped experimenting, or everyone who is still experimenting just dropped into like the dumpster ranks, and you don't face these people anymore. And you just face only these 3 classes, Paladin. Like a week ago, you faced like a lot of druids, taunt druids, spiteful druids, maybe even spiteful priests. Everything is gone, or like Mind Blast priest. Everything seems to be gone suddenly. It's only even Paladin, or not even odd Paladin. It's just even Paladin, Rogue, Quest Rogue mainly, and then now it's control lock because
Actually, let's
control
look
lock
at
is better
popularity.
against
I can
even
kind of,
paladin.
yeah, maybe it's just look at popularity a little
And
bit here.
it just got stale so quickly. And you sometimes face tempo mage or like odds rogue just because they're trying to counter the quest rogues even harder. But it's basically rock paper scissors. It really feels like that. You're like, when you play a game, you feel like, oh nice, I got a nice matchup. But the problem is also the mirrors are not that skill intensive because usually they just come down to, like, if you play an even paladin mirror, you draw call to arms and I don't, then you like favorite stuff like
that's
that.
all. I mean, I think that particular matchup, it's always kind of been like that, right?
No, all the mirrors are kind of stupid.
Yeah,
I feel like a little bit.
Well, I like Control Warlock mirror. I think that can be pretty
Control
fun.
Warlock,
But yeah, the amount of games where it feels like you're playing the game and your decisions matter a lot is at an all-time low, I'd say, right now in the metagame. If you're trying to play the game competitively, it feels like most of the time you don't really matter, and that's not that how I want to play. Like, I don't want to feel that when I play a game. I never want to feel. I want to feel that as little as possible. We call those like non-games, and we have been calling those that for quite a while now in Hearthstone. And the amount of non-games that have occurred in the competitive metagame or the tournament metagame has gone up considerably with Witchwood and the rotation compared to the previous expansion. The previous expansion, it was starting to rise a little bit too, but now it's at like an all-time high. And I think nerfs and stuff like that are in order. There needs to be some sort of change to just reduce the amount of non-games. I don't care about decks being, broken or not. I just care about when I play the game, I want to feel like I'm playing a game. I don't want to feel like
you're not playing
automatically wins.
Complete counters, basically.
Right. I think that's just
counters.
super unhealthy. You don't want everything to be like a 50-50. You want there to be some amount of, counterplay. If you're losing to something, play this to help you beat it. But you don't want to play something where it's just like, boom, I win. Like, that's just, it is such a bummer to have that kind of gameplay. It just doesn't feel satisfying to win or lose.
So, before, let's just talk about like last week, right? So before, I would say Quest Rogue became, really instilled in the meta because, for me, Quest Rogue is like literally the reason why you just don't play control decks because you just lose so badly to it. It's like, it's not even funny, right? Before
control decks are insane right now, though. If you look at like big spell mage versus odd rogue, for example, you pretty much always win. It's like 85% win rate for the big spell mage. Yep. So, or if you're playing like the tank up warrior, you pretty much always beat the burn mage because you have Justicar armor up at the start of the game. So you have these lopsided matchups with the control decks against the aggro decks. The control decks smash the aggro decks. Control Warlock destroys some aggro most of the time. So you have some incentive on that side to be playing the control decks. That's why a lot of people play them. And then that's why people play, there's the whole thing there. So
I kind of, it was like starting to do that, but then you would see like Spiteful Druid, like you would see these kind of like mid-range decks with like power turns still be able to do okay against some of those control decks, and you had that. But now it's just like enter a Quest Rogue, and now it's just like, oh my gosh, like you basically have a complete counter now to all those control decks. So
I want to add something very important to that. This Quest Rogue that we have right now compared to before, with every anti-control deck that we had before, was a huge risk actually to kill an anti-control deck like a Mill Rogue or like a Kingspan Rogue, whatever, because you got destroyed by aggro decks. But with this current Quest Rogue, it is just way too good against aggressive decks in comparison. It's not a huge risk to queue a super anti-control deck that is like 90% versus every slow deck. That's a huge problem with the deck we have right now. I don't remember the last time. I think the last time we had such a super powerful anti-control deck was like the unnerved Miracle Rogue or like Combo Druid, like way back in the days, that you just can beat everything.
Wow.
You can't beat everything.
You can't beat everything. You can beat some paladins like occasionally.
Yeah.
The even paladin is something that the Quest Rogue can kind of beat because the even paladin, I'd say, is a little bit slower than other archetypes of paladin. They adjusted for a little while. They're throwing in Avenging Wrath, which helps them a lot against the Quest Rogues, having that little bit of extra burst at the end. But like the Murloc
Only boosts the
Paladin,
burn.
odd Paladins are fast enough, I'd say, that Quest Rogue like almost never wins. And Quest Rogue never wins versus Burn Mage. So I mean, it has counters, but I don't think it's too good versus aggro. I think just it's too good versus the controlling decks, and too bad versus aggro. I want it to be
yeah, you actually want it to be. You want everything to be more normalized, and then just have like certain advantages in certain areas, right? Just like moderate advantages. Yeah, not like.
I want there to be more gameplay. I want it to be you cue the matchup. I'm at a slight disadvantage. How do I figure out a game plan to win? Play towards my outs and try and set up where it is where I can get an advantage in. But I'd say this meta game currently is one of the most lackluster gameplay of Hearthstone I've ever seen. You play control against aggro, you try and find your board clear, you win, move on. You play Quest Rogue, you just kind of dump your hand onto the table doing quest stuff. Like, you don't have to pilot Quest Rogue well to climb with it. You beat control while playing it very poorly. Quest Rogue is a very complicated deck to play perfectly.
Yeah,
you don't have to play perfectly to get 80% win rate against control. Not even close. Not even slightly close.
I lost the guy who I had like counters on like four or five cards on Quest Rogue, and he only got he had like 3 or 4 counters on those cards, and he finally got one, and then I just still lost, even him giving me all that time. So
it feels like one of the least skill intensive meta games in Hearthstone right now, just because you don't play the game.
Yeah, you just pick the deck, right? I mean, it's more of a games being determined before you even start playing type of thing. Let's take a look at least just how we look at like popularity. This is one of the things that I always feel like when you start seeing the meta settling, or when it's settled completely, is when you see the actual popularity rankings or the class power rankings match with the deck the class popularities matching the class power rankings.
That's an odd looking paladin.
What do you mean?
Is a druid.
Oh, is it a druid? God, I keep doing that.
Malfurion is at the top there.
That's my bad. God, I keep doing that. I keep like the portraits. I keep getting.
And I'm not even facing that many druids.
I know, no, it's a paladin. It's like ignore the portrait. Jeez, man, it's like I keep doing that with this thing. But yeah, you can see that like the class popularity is now like all time high. Like I think over 20%. It's never been over 20%. Nothing has. So you got paladin up there now. You've got the obviously the win rate's kind of matching up, and rogue's officially in the top 3, where druid was in the top 3 like last time we did this. So druid's still popular. Spiteful obviously still holding it up there, but win rate wise, it's definitely dropped into the mage level. Mage is actually climbing, I think, with that most recent deck. So wouldn't be surprised if it even gets maybe to 50. Yeah,
I think mage will overtake druid for sure by the end of the week. Or maybe not the end of the week because it's over in a day, you said. But next week, I think mage will definitely overtake druid. The mage seems really well positioned. It's an aggressive deck that gets floored by paladin most of the time, especially when paladins start being able to play against it better. A lot of them don't play around the arcane missiles or the big arcane missiles as well as they should.
Yeah. So
it's getting some extra points against paladin because it's just kind of new and people don't know what's going on yet. I think it should lose to paladin a lot more than it does, but it beats warlock and rogue pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
So it's like quite powerful against 2 of the most popular decks in the metagame. Loses to the 3rd, which is a lot better than everyone else. If everyone's going rock, paper, scissors, this one's dynamite, basically,
Right.
It's 2.
Book.
Yeah.
Another thing we see is that Hunter continues to slide. Basically, ever since I've been doing these kind of like class popularity rankings, we just see Hunter, which was at the top, I think, on day 1. Or maybe it was Shaman on day 1, right, with Shudderwock. But Hunter was like number 2. And each time I've done it, it's basically dropped down another rank. So I don't think it's going to get quite to Shaman level with 2%, 2, whatever. But it's officially in that territory. So.
I'm actually surprised to see Hunter fall so much.
Yeah.
I think Hunter could be kind of decent right now. Maybe not like a Baku Hunter, but just a generic face Hunter. I guess maybe they can't beat the Warlock healing enough, but it should be able to do quite well versus the rogues, the quest rogues and whatnot, and then quite well against the warlocks, much like how mage is doing to get its climb. Hunter should be able to do the same thing. So it's kind of odd to me to see it drop off so much. And maybe there's some face hunter builds that people aren't trying that could do what mage is doing, or maybe mage is just better at it. So that's why hunter's dropping off so much.
Yeah, but to say the same thing, like hunter's my second best performing class. Actually, I'm doing pretty well with just a regular spell hunter, because it can beat rogue. It's like super favorite against rogue, because you have so much face damage, and it's very good versus paladin just because spellstone is still your win condition. You just have that, and then play 2 anti-aggro traps, and then you play a spellstone. Usually you win. It's just that you auto lose to warlock. Like earlier you needed Barnes to win, yet now you don't have it, but it's still doing good versus 2 of the strongest classes in the game. So it's significantly doing better than warrior or shaman or priest, in my opinion. So it's really surprising.
Yeah. I think the difference between the mage is that just taunts, right? Like hunters have a problem hitting through taunts, so mages can obviously just cast spells and blast face and get that 30 a lot of times. But yeah, there's Wolf Rider hunters out there. I mean, we've seen them before, and I know for a fact I've seen them in my queries I do. So there are some out there, and it might be just one of those things that it's just not well known that that's the way to do it. There's a lot of decks like that. They're floating with good winning percentages that people just don't realize. I wish we could like represent that on the site somehow, because there's so it's hard. I'm trying to figure out different ways to kind of get it out there for you guys to see. But yeah, anyways, to kind of cap it off, Warrior. I mean, Warrior has an up symbol before it, but really in reality, the total number went down. So it went up a rank, but it actually went down overall. So Warrior's kind of rough right now too. But the power ranking went up a little bit. I think the actual win rate went up a tiny bit. Still, people trying to figure out the rush.
As the spiteful numbers go down, Control Warrior might be able to get a little bit better, because you can make Control Warrior that can beat Warlock and Paladin. The problem is Quest Rogue auto beats you, and Spiteful Druid pretty much auto beats you as well. So if Spiteful Druid continues to decline in popularity, you can have 2 favorables and 1 auto lose.
But even if you take against Warlock, you can still lose to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no deck out there that I see that doesn't have something that you auto lose. I struggled yesterday on my stream trying to find a deck. It's like, is there anything I can play where I don't have a matchup where I instantly lose? Because I hate that. It's my least favorite thing. I don't know if you guys noticed how much I've been talking about it. And
really, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't find one. I couldn't find a single deck.
Yeah,
it was like a tier 1 deck that doesn't have a matchup where it auto loses.
It used to be Spiteful, but now Spiteful does so bad against Paladin, right? So it's that's true. That's a good point. I'm like looking at this our matchup chart. I don't think there's anything that doesn't have that deep red in it or deep pink in it, right? Pretty rough. So I put together just our kind of 5. Oh no, actually not that one. Not that one. That was too early. Actually, where did I put it? I was gonna put the five best decks here. That. Not best decks overall, because they would all just be shaman, or paladin decks, kind of thing. So I kind of put together just like from rank 4 to legend, just some of the kind of unique archetypes that we've seen. And Secret Paladin shows up. Have you guys played Secret Paladin at all recently?
I've played it. I was not impressed by it. I saw it actually show up on the HSReplay data, and then I was like, all right, I'll give this a try. And then I was like, well, this just feels worse. And then I stopped playing it. I think it's an anomaly. I was not super impressed by it compared to other decks.
I had the same experience. I had the same experience where I was just like, I must be playing this wrong because I keep losing when I'm playing this deck. And, all the other decks, either be winning or at the very least be, have like a 50% session. But yeah, with Secret Paladin, I was having a little hard time. So that showed up the highest.
I played all the Paladin archetypes, also Secret Paladin. I did okay with it, but as soon as you start playing even Paladin, it just feels so much better than every other archetype. So just stop playing it. I feel like, it's like you have an archetype. Like, if even Paladin would be worse, then we would see more of the other Paladin archetypes. It's just too strong. I think that's the main reason.
I don't know. I prefer odd Paladin against aggro, and I prefer even Paladin against control, because even Paladin It has the ability to go the distance against all the control decks, and you can sometimes sneak wins off Warlock, which feels really good. But Odd Paladin, I think, beats Even Paladin head-to-head. Even though it doesn't have Knife Juggler or anything, just the ability to make so many dudes.
Yeah.
You get ahead a lot of the times, I'd say.
Yeah, there's no board clear, right? Like outside of juggling a bunch of things.
Creations and 2 Avenging
But
Reps.
they have Consecrates and
Oh, they have
Avenging
it. Oh,
Reps,
yeah, they have
but
it.
the thing is, the board clears
they
are
do
too
have
inefficient
Consecrates. I forget
compared
about
to
that.
the reload, in my opinion. So as the Odd Paladin, you get to just reload so much, and you're 1/1s are always threatening, whereas the other side, the 1/1s aren't super threatening. All you can do is Stegodon, but the 1/1s for the Odd Paladin, if you're ahead, you get to just jam Fungalmancer and win the game, or if you're ahead, you get to jam the +2/+2 and get Taunt and win the game. So there's just so many more ways to capitalize on the guys, so they force your opponent to have to clear them if they're behind. Whereas against Even Paladin, I just redevelop into their board and feel fine most of the time.
Yeah. So yeah, we got 3 Paladin. What do you guys think of the Murloc one then? I mean, you guys mentioned Even, Odd, and obviously mentioned Secret in the beginning. I did, but Murloc Paladin is actually, if you look across all ranks, it's actually the top class, or our top archetype right now. How does it fall into there? I mean, is it closer to Even, like in terms of just how it plays, or is it closer to Odd?
Closer to Odd.
Okay,
closer to Odd. Against Control, you have a lot less gas compared to Even or Odd, because you don't have the power to Hero Power, and you don't have, like, for example, the 8 drops that Even's going to have. But you have the advantage of sometimes you get the explosive Murloc start and just auto win versus Control. So if you hit the right Murloc start, you just beat up Control, which is really good. And you have a pretty good chance against Even Paladin, because you just have a full arsenal of early game options, so you can oftentimes get ahead first. Yeah. So I'd say you're better in the aggro mirrors, and then against Control, you have that high roll where sometimes, hey, we have the Murloc curve, and they didn't board clear us. I guess we win.
Yeah, and those of you might have been wondering, like, oh, well, you just said that Murloc is the top. It's the top in the meta tier. It's these are just like deck percentages that you're seeing, like win rates in the last 36 hours. So that's the reason why it's different. So Odd Rogue shows up here. It's not Quest Rogue that shows up here. Yeah, but Odd Rogue seems to be doing pretty well, like, obviously in the mirror, and then we're seeing some good matches. What are the best matches for Odd Rogue again?
Quest Rogue is pretty much a free win.
Yeah, free win.
They just never beat you. You always beat Quest Rogue because you have so much burn damage. So that one's really helpful. You do really well against the new emerging mages. So that's also very strong. The mages, they can't actually develop any minions that don't die to your 1-drop plus your dagger.
Right.
So you actually stop all of their early game aggression, which is that. So you can kill them before they get to the mana to burn you out with Pyroblast and stuff like that.
You can just beat Warlock with
you can beat
right.
You can beat Q-Block. Spiteful too. It's got a good matchup. So like that 87. Holy crap, man! That's like insane, man. That percentage. Yeah. So actually, that's Quest. That's Quest though. Okay, right here. Yeah.
I wonder how these people win these. What is it, 12% of the time though?
Well,
how do they
win? Are part of it.
Yeah, it disconnects.
They build a quest or something.
Maybe. All right, Control Warlock's the last one. So why Control Warlock over Q-Block? Is it just because there's more removal in it?
It's better versus aggro. Way better.
Mm-hmm. Simple enough.
Way better.
Yeah.
There aren't any really control decks that you want Doomguard for, unless you want to be able to beat Quest Rogue. And so then you have to ask yourself, is the percent chance to high roll a Quest Rogue with Doomguards worth the amount that I lose against aggro? And the answer to that is oftentimes no. Also, the mirror is not popular enough. I think the Doomguards are really powerful in the mirror, like the Doomguards and cubes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Warlock is surprisingly not very popular at most ranks, at least in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the Doomguards kind of fall by the wayside so that you can beat up the aggro decks more.
The problem with Warlock is really it's the most polarized class in the game right now. If you face like a token-based aggro deck with a control lock, you feel like you're 90% favorite. You face cube lock, you're 10%. You really have these super extremes with Warlock the most. And this is like, I think, too frustrating for most people to go through that emotional roller coaster. It's not as bad if you play like Paladin. With Paladin, you always feel like, okay, I can high roll a Warlock. It's a bad matchup, but you just get your God curve, you play around the EU, maybe have a chance, maybe they misplay, whatever. But with Warlock, it's so polarized on every matchup, pretty much.
It's kind of interesting. They have Dreadlords and stuff in it too. It's been, I've definitely played this recently, which has been fun, or at least it's kind of fun to see every once in a while instead of seeing giants and cube block all the time. But let's see.
Yeah, I don't know how good the Dreadlords actually are, but people are playing it and winning. But people are also playing Warlock without them and winning. So it becomes tough to evaluate.
When the core of the deck is good, and the core of the deck is just winning purely. You could put anything in there. Yeah,
the Dreadlords are probably worse than not having them and instead having some other sort of control tool, because it's just better to get Voidlord more consistently.
There just has to be like a diminishing return on like having too many AoE effects in your deck.
I mean,
I feel like
Warlock has.
Well, I mean, a lot of Warlocks don't even play Godfrey because it doesn't make the cut of good AoEs. That controlling Warlock listed right there doesn't even have Godfrey in it. So I think the Despicable Dreadlords are probably a worse AoE than Godfrey. They lower your odds of getting Voidlord out from your lackeys or the weapon. I think it could be just a side effect of Warlock's really good. That's why we're seeing that deck have success.
I think
less so than the Despicable Dreadlord is good, because the last set when Q-Block and Control Warlock were dominant and stuff like that, there was a Control Warlock Paladin metagame, much like this one, and Despicable Dreadlord, people tested it and confirmed that it wasn't as good.
Okay. Yeah, Warlock I think is the only class where you could literally fill 30 cards with just AoE effects. Whether it's like removing the entire board or minions that have battle cries that do damage across the board. I think you could fill it 15 cards. There's so many things aren't even being using. Like I think you mentioned Mist, right, Gaara, at one point, and I mean Felfire's gone now, right?
Every other control deck would insta play double corrupting Mist, and Warlock doesn't play.
Yeah, and then we had the 6-drop too, and like that does 3 across the Enforcer. Is it the Enforcer, right?
7-drop, Abyssal Enforcer.
7-drop and Abyssal Enforcer. Yeah, so I think we could fill 15 cards in Warlock, and that's crazy. That's like when they don't need any more. They don't need any more AoE effects. It's just like wasted on Warlock.
Just think about the Firebat example. You can choose to not play Godfrey.
Yeah, and that's insane. Godfrey's so good too. It's just nuts.
It's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to definitely continue to talk about, just our card highlight that we have. But I do want to make sure we give a plug to our sponsor today, ZipRecruiter. For those of you not familiar with ZipRecruiter, they are a job website. You can go to ZipRecruiter.com. And, if you're looking to hire, if you're having trouble finding someone to hire and, you've posted, jobs on different sites and you're having to kind of like track all those sites, well, ZipRecruiter is definitely going to be a perfect solution for you, given that it allows for a bunch of sites to kind of work within ZipRecruiter. So if you go to ZipRecruiter, you'll be able to like track your progress on all these postings on multiple sites. And if you're looking for somebody, ZipRecruiter identifies the person, looks at their experience, and then tries to match it up with you too. So they have this whole kind of matching algorithm that really, really works well. 80% of employers find a candidate for their job that they post, and most of them find it like within 1 day of posting it too. So it's going to be an awesome solution for you. And if you want to sign up and get, you can just try it out for free, you can go to ZipRecruiter.com/ValueTown, and you'll be able to do that like today. So definitely go do that. They can tell obviously you guys came from it if you go to the Value Town, and I've definitely been checking it out, of course. They allowed me to hop on there. I haven't been hiring anybody necessarily. Maybe in the near future I will be, but definitely been checking out the UI just because I've used a bunch of job sites in the past, and ZipRecruiter does look pretty nice in terms of even if you're looking for a job too, definitely use ZipRecruiter. It's again, it's like instead of going to about 10, 15 different job sites, you can just use one that kind of pulls from all of them. So, check that out. And thank you to ZipRecruiter for sponsoring this episode. All right, next up we've got we're gonna highlight a card. So decided we would pick. It was so funny because I was like asking these guys, hey, what card do you think it'd be kind of cool to see what decks are being built with? And nobody sent me anything, so I was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna do Lifedrinker. So like, let's just see it, kind of do a query on it. And I pulled it up, and obviously a lot of people know Lifedrinker from the Shudderwock Shaman, but we've been seeing it more in the Paladins and even the Mage recently. And then Firebat immediately says, no, dude, I've been like crushing with this Mage that has Lifedrinker in it. So it turned out to be a perfect timing that we can talk about this Mage deck and we can talk about Lifedrinker. So overall, yeah, Lifedrinker, what do you guys think? Like, kind of, did you guys overrate it in the beginning, underrate it? Like when you were actually reviewing cards, how did you guys, or did you guys even think about Lifedrinker as a potential cool card in some kind of build?
And my quote of myself was, the card is good in a deck where this card is good in. So you will play this card in decks where it fits in, like a face hunter, whatever.
Okay.
If you didn't have such decks, then like a burn mage or whatever. Like, because the card is good, but you can't play obviously this card in every deck. It has to be fitting.
I thought the card was just good. I thought for the amount of mana you're spending, the amount of value you're getting is above average compared to the general scale of things in Hearthstone. It's not like call to arms power level scale, right?
There's not many things at that level. Yeah.
If you evaluate like what effects you're getting from the card, the fact that you're dealing 3 damage, Sinister Strike is a card that deals 3 damage for 1 mana, and then you're gaining 3 life, and then Earthring Farseer is a card that is healing you for 3 and putting it 3/3. Earthring Farseer though costs 3 mana because you can choose to aim it at another minion. This card you can't choose to aim it at another minion. Oftentimes you can't aim it at another minion anyway because that is just too late game of an option. So a 3 mana 3/3 that heals for 3 is valued at 3 mana and the cost of a card. And then dealing 3 damage is valued at 1 mana and the cost of a card. And you have to remember the cost of a card is something that's relevant. You don't have unlimited cards. That's a resource that you only get 1 a turn. So you're expending, unless you're generating it in some other means. So for what this card does, it is more than 4 mana and a card worth of stuff.
Yeah.
In the Hearthstone universe. So I think it's a powerful card. I think if there's a deck that wants to do damage and gain life, then this is amazing in that deck because, like I said, it's above average on the mana curve compared to other things in the game.
Yeah, and in a burn type of face type of deck, it can buy you an extra turn too, and
right.
allow you to finish out a game. For those of you listening,
Mage,
go ahead.
In Mage, a lot of times you have this decision point that you get where you're like, all right, I have all this burn. I don't have enough quite to kill him yet. So now, do I want to try and kill him and hopefully top deck the rest of the burn, right, or can I live till turn 10 and pyroblast it? And so Lifedrinker is really crucial in those kind of games where you have to try and set up to make it to turn 10 against the tempo or aggressive deck that you're playing against, to be able to get that pyroblast off. In those games, you're going to be like fireballing minions to try and buy time and stuff like that, and squeezing in, like exactly setting them to 10 with the Lifedrinker, and then next turn pyroblasting them. So it can create some really cool games with the Tempo Mage. For sure, the most skill-intensive games are when you have that decision point of, I guess I probably can't burn them out. So now how do I make it to turn 10? Or is it better maybe to not go to turn 10 and just try and burn them out anyway and hope I like top them? So Lifedrinker causes those games. I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, just for folks that are listening, Lifedrinker is a 4-mana 3/3 beast, and it says Battlecry, deal 3 damage to an enemy hero, and restore 3 health to your hero. Gaara, thoughts on this? Have you played any of these decks? Outside of
I actually tested. I actually tested Lifedrinker today in even Paladin because I didn't like the 4-drop, the recruit buffer guy as much.
Stegadon.
Oh, Stegadon.
Yeah, okay. The Stegadon, it just feels like so clunky at times, so it feels very difficult to get value out of it. So test the different cards. and I tested Lifedrinker, but in that deck you just need like not the most powerful minions, but the minions have to do a little bit more to just burn. So like I ended up cutting it again, but yeah, it just shows that it's a viable option if you're looking for good 4-drops in like similar archetypes.
Yeah,
It just fits.
It needs damage to go with it. Even Paladin doesn't win with damage. Even Paladin wins with board control. So it doesn't really, you don't get any, well, you get some benefit, but you get way less benefit of the direct damage and way less benefit of the healing because you're a deck that aims to take the board early and control it the whole game. If you're controlling the board the whole game, you're not really taking any face damage. So you don't really benefit from the heal.
Yeah.
So, but it is kind of interesting with the Glass Knight.
Have you seen this version with the Spiteful and the Giants and the Silvers? This is the first time I've seen this version. It's like, I mean, there are a lot of different versions of even Paladin guys, but so, I mean, it's kind of hard to even figure out which one of those are the best ones. But
Yeah,
this one's crazy, man.
Yeah, that seems insane. They have like all of the tech going on. I've also seen even Paladin with Mountain Giant before, where they played Loot Hoarder and Dry Gulch Jailer and Mountain Giant. Guy hit top 10 on Asia with that.
Jeez,
so there's just lots of really weird variations of Paladin. But generally, when you play Paladin, you want to draw a 2-drop and Call to Arms, and then it doesn't really matter what the other cards in your deck are, as long as you have enough 2-drops for Call to Arms to work.
That's so funny, but so true at the same time. Like if you exchange like Lich King for like the 6-mana legendary weapon, or like play the 8-mana weapon, or play a Tyrion, it makes like so little difference in how the deck is played and how the deck wins. It really comes down to get Call to Arms and go from there.
Okay, so if Call to Arms wasn't that strong, would even Paladin even be a thing?
Odd would be significantly better if Call to Arms wasn't that strong. Like Odd is already fairly close to even Paladin in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are playing it though. But even Paladin kind of takes the cake because Call to Arms is so strong that it allows you to get away with a lot more.
And Sunkeeper Terrain.
Yeah.
And Sunkeeper Terrain. Well, you have it 50% of the time in Odd Paladin. Stonehill Defender is like 50% to get Sunkeeper Terrain or something crazy like that.
You might actually get it more. No, that would be wacky. Can you imagine the stats showed that you got Terrain more in an odd deck because of Stonehill? That'd be hilarious. I might have to actually look at that.
I mean, that's what happened with Priest, that when you played Draconic Cooperative, you had way more often Jaina than the Control Mage in the match.
Oh, God, that's crazy. So thoughts on just Paladin? Like this is the only class that we literally see a type of build or two different builds that are supposed to be almost like bisecting the card set. Not just the class card set, but just the entire card set. Yet we can still build two extremely awesome, decks from a win rate standpoint with Paladin itself. So I'm just curious. I want to just throw that out there and see what y'all's thoughts are. I mean, is that speaking to Paladin, or is that? I mean, what does that tell us? Like at least in terms of
the Call to Arms. You know how I was talking about how like Lifedrinker on the grand scale of thing does more than a 4-mana card on average does, with what a 3/3 is worth, what everything's worth, right? Well, Call to Arms does way more than that. Call to Arms draws 3 cards, first off, which is insane. Drawing 3 cards is worth about 4 mana.
6 mana in the Mage.
Wow, in Mage if you're playing 2 Arcane Intellects, right? So, depending on the class, card draw differs because different classes can do different things with it. Some classes are burn classes and they can kill you with card draw. But it's worth more than 4 mana already, drawing 3 cards for most classes. And then you look at, then you also play 6 mana worth of stuff. It's absolutely insane. It's worth, like, people would play Call to Arms if it cost 5 mana. People might play it if it costs 6 mana. People probably would play it if it cost 6 mana. That's insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah, because of the you get to play multiple cards. It's just too
6
good.
mana. Holy.
This
shit.
is why,
Yeah,
for example,
that's
To
true.
My Side, it's because of the card cost. To My Side is so much better than Animal Companion because you play 2 Animal Companions, like compared to playing 2 Animal Companions, because you have 2 animal in 1 card. I'm pretty sure people would play.
2 drops are not worth 2 mana when they're pulled
No.
from 1 card, is basically what he's trying to say. Each value of a card also, or each like card in Hearthstone has a mana cost associated with it, but you also have to remember there's the cost of a card, because that's when the card draw value comes into things.
Yeah.
So when it's doing so much and you're pulling out 2 drops, you're not pulling out 2 mana worth of stuff. And Knife Juggler alongside other stuff is worth more mana. Is the value of having so many different cards in play. So that's when you get that card draw value associated with the card. So it's crazy powerful. You get a lot more mana on the board than you think.
Okay, so even evens. Oh, go ahead, Gar. And before I.
Yeah, just saying, like, mana cheat is so good in Hearthstone. Every single mana cheat card that was ever printed was played in like in insane amount of form.
Right.
Like in whatever deck you could play it, you played it. Cards like Emperor, Torison, or like any mana cheat.
Right.
And most cards got nerfed. The cheat mana so far as well.
Okay, so we're
Like,
talking evens being carried by Call to Arms and Tarim, right? Like let's just say those 2 cards. All right.
Sure.
Now we switch over to Odd, and okay, what are the cards that are carrying Odd right now?
Well, one of the things that really helps Odd is being access to Fungalmancer and being access to the 5 mana buff card for the Silverhand
level up?
recruits.
Level up.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Level up is absolutely huge, but also just the hero power. The hero power is insane because the hero power just does so much. You get to play instead hordes of 1-drops in your deck, which you can see here. Yeah, you get the Arch's Veteran, Argent Squires, Blessing of Might even. Sure, why not? Because you play a 1-drop alongside your hero power is way better than playing a 3-drop. So you get to be able to outpace other aggro decks because your early game then gets to become 3 1-drops in the first 2 turns of the game, which then you make up the loss of that value by your hero power carrying you in the later game. But the tempo of 3 1-drops allows you to get on the board first, and you get to dictate the trades. You get to get your buffs online, so you just dominate aggro mirrors because you can afford to play all these 1-drops and then rely on the hero power carrying you. So I think Odd Paladin is actually just inherently stronger, just because the hero power is so
just
much
literally
better.
the hero power carrying it. There isn't many Paladin cards in this that are crazy strong. Like they just go super well with the hero power. So
right, you just win the board with because you're able to play so many 1-drops and then clutch on the value of the hero.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
like, every deck just runs out of removal because you always feel like, right, well, I have to clear everything, else I get punished by Fungalmancer or Level Up or like the champion. That's the problem. Like you have also so much synergy with the stupidly overpowered hero power that you have to like kind of waste board clears.
Yeah.
In situations you don't want to.
Really, really strong. If Call to Arms wasn't a thing, then this would just be way better. And this deck is really dangerous going forward because, as you said, there's not a lot of good Paladin cards.
Yeah, there's
in that deck.
Right. I mean, we're playing Stormwind champions and raid leaders in this because of how strong the wide strategy is. So I mean, as cool as that is, which I think it's super cool, right? Just to bring back beta cards, basically. Right now it's like you can't really do much to this to nerf it. There's like so many things I feel like you could put in this deck, this Odd deck, to continue the power level of it. So the even one, you can choose those 2 cards, I think, and do remove them, and then it would be so much worse. Odd is much more difficult. So it speaks a lot, right, to what's possible, or at least the hero power and how it's designed. If Shaman got a double totem, you think that would be better? Like, would that do enough for Shaman to do? Like,
well, they also need to be able to win the board, but double totem would be insane. Even if they're just like, the regular totems. It,
Yeah.
it would be crazy. You could just run it as buff cards and 1-drops.
That's
It's the
what I
power
mean.
because
It's similar.
1-drops
It's
are
like similar.
the most efficient usage of mana in the game, pretty much, besides from things that you have to set up, because they cost a card as well as the 1 mana, but it's more efficient, right? Your mana utilization, because spending 2 mana in a card or spending like 2 mana and 2 cards, you just put more resources on the field than your opponent did because you have 2 cards in the field as well as 2 mana, and they only have 1 card and 2 mana. So 1-drops are the most efficient way you can spend your mana in the game, and so you get to play more 1-drops when your hero power is as powerful as Odd Paladin is. And if Shaman was the same and made the 2 totems, you'd be able to board flood as much, and you'd be able to crutch on the fact that you can play 1-drops for that tempo game to win the board, and then use the hero power beyond that, because things that work while controlling the board work with the hero power that makes 2 bodies.
I got to point out that today someone hit rank 1 legend in wild with even Shaman, so maybe the deck is just missing.
Well, even
sweet...
Shaman in wild is a completely different thing than
wild as well. Is just
I mean, you got totem golems and stuff. I mean, it's
nobody's playing wild, so it makes a lot of the and even if people are playing, like it's not enough, I would say, for any decks to be, merit consistency out of just one good win streak to rank 1 wild. I think you need more data for sure.
I think cards like Think from Below just get so auto, like, if you have
really
like
good
1 right,
sure.
Yeah, that would be completely broken good. No, but just going wide. I mean, I think that the Paladin, it's always been a possible, or at least design wise from a Paladin standpoint. Going wide in this dude strategy has been something I waited for a long time, and finally, it's happening in the last 6 to 8 months. But Shaman's always been known as a class that goes wide. And right now, like, it's not even close to being a class that's good enough to even do that. So it just seems like that identity for Shaman is like really missing. And as powerful as it is having 2 totems come down on something like that, I feel like the class needs it right now, because it's missing that part of the Hearthstone identity that I think it's always been part of.
I think this is really something that Blizzard did in the past few years, and I don't really understand why they do it. Like, they really changed the class identity so much. Like, they're pushing this control hunter archetype for like forever. Then they started with Beast Druid. Now, like, Warrior is like the class that plays taunt minions, and Druid is the class that armors up. Rogue is playing Quest Rogue, as like the most played deck. Paladin is the flat deck. I don't even know any. Like, we had like so distinctive feel to every class. When we played the class. Now it's like so mixed up and weird.
I don't mind them changing up some. It's just the hero power dictates a lot. Like identity wise. So it's like you said, I guess Control Hunter would be a good example for you. Like one of those examples you said. It's just so hard to do a Control Hunter because of the hero power. So they're trying with Rexxar. Rexxar's super improved now. I mean, we're not going to go too much into Hunter, at least quite yet. But I think changing the identity is something that can be a good thing because it is change. But at the same time, it's when it's like conflicting with other things with the class, it can be very just non-productive. Which I feel like with Shaman, we're kind of seeing that. Like, it's just like there's nothing there for Shaman right now.
Shaman does not really have too much of a class identity. The totems kind of got like really scrapped with Thing from Below and stuff leaving. Now you can only do like Death Rattle, make your minions summon totems, and then
like, what do they do? It's like
you can assemble Alakir if that happens, but just most people do more, or most classes do more things when they have board control, and even then, Shaman's got some of the worst AoE, except for maybe Volcano, but even Volcano is not very strong compared to like the real AoE classes like Warlock, and Storm is abysmal. It's just not a very good card, but it's like one of the best cards in Shaman. And then they have pretty bad taunts. They have pretty bad healing. They have Healing Rain. Compare that to even the Priest healing is better than that, and compare it to Warlock, and there's no contest. So, and the removal wise, they have Hex, which is actually quite powerful. It's one of the only classes with a transform effect, But card draw wise, they're also super abysmal. They got Mana Tide Totem and Bar Sight. So they just don't really have any areas where they excel more than other classes, I'd say, except for Shudderwock potentially. So there's that potential there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's always lurking that one card that will quote unquote save Shaman. But it's not really saving it. Just because you can build one deck from it doesn't mean that it's good. You know, the class is good. We didn't even talk about the mage yet. So let's just talk about this mage that we've been referring to. That's super aggro. It's like all the burn, including like Arcane Missile and Cinderstorm, which has been one of the surprises for me, just how like really cool it is. And then just like your secrets, like the explosive runes and counterspell. Those are the only 2 secrets that you have. And the rest of you guys can imagine. Lifedrinker, a Lunith, just in case you get into like a little bit longer games, which rarely happens, but when they do, a Lunith is awesome. Obviously Pyroblast too to finish it out. So super aggro. Anything to talk, like what cards surprised you the most? Like the Cinderstorm surprised you guys at all, or
Arcane Missiles and Cinderstorm both surprised me. Yeah, Arcane Missile is an extremely powerful card in this deck. In a lot of is sort of aggro mirrors. You can kind of just like keep Sorcerer's Apprentice and go like coin Sorcerer's Apprentice, Arcane Missiles, in that 50-50, kill their guy.
Right.
Then you get to push an extra 3 to the face, and sometimes that can be enough for you to be able to win the race at the end of the game, because they have to react to your guy. So you often get in like 6 with your Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then can snowball from there because they're a little bit slower under the board then.
Crazy.
But,
yeah,
just in general, the missiles are really good and allow you to win race scenarios a lot of the time.
Gaara, you play this at all? No?
Against it a lot. The Sorcerer's Apprentice is so annoying. It feels so strong. Like sometimes it feels like Miracle Mage. Like sometimes they just play Sorcerer's Apprentice, Primordial Glyph, and then they go like 5 cards in the same turn, play like 3 Frostbolts and Arcane Missiles, and then suddenly like Mirror Image on top of it, and you're like, come on, dude, you have 1 mana. I'm basically surprised that it works when you look at the deck. That's very cool.
There's 10 minions in the whole deck.
I know.
Mainly burn spells. You constantly have to play towards your top deck because your top deck can burn a lot of the time. So it can feel like a super RNG deck because you're pretty much always playing towards the top deck. Most of your top decks are burn, so you play towards like a 70% to hit enough damage to close the game. And you just hope you get there, and you hope that your opponent doesn't top deck a healing card.
It's 70%. Is it really RNG though? At 70%,
it's pretty RNG. That against the odds that your opponent top decks a healing.
Well, there's not much healing right now. I mean, that's why this deck's good, right? Like outside of Cube and maybe some True Silvers.
Well, like, the reason why that you can beat Cube, or not really Cube, you probably are unfavored against Cube Warlock. They have the healing, but so they have the healing and the pressure, the Cube Warlocks. But a lot of people are switching to the Control Warlock with these like the Despicable Dreadlords, which are just not very pressure, like super slow pressure. Whereas like Doom Guards, they kill you, and then they threaten them with cubes, and they cube pack you, and then you die before you get to Pyroblast and stuff like that. Against Control Warlock, you can go to like turn 13 in the game, and you can take it really slow, draw all of your burn, launch it all at their face, and kill them. But
what's the total on this burn? Let's see. It's 12, 22, 32. Is this 38? Oh my god! If you get the explosive runes, you get like full explosive runes. 50. 656 from Lifedrinker. Glyphs, glyph. Oh my god, yeah. We're talking like 60 plus. Wow, okay. That's just spells. That's just spells. That's not even minion damage. Okay.
It's not really about the healing. It's about the pressure. Because Mage, although it has a lot of damage, it has some of the most inefficient sources of damage in the game, mana-wise. And it surrenders the board on turn 3, this deck. This deck, the curve pretty much stops at 3. Lifedrinker is not like a board controlling play. That's more aiming to try and kill you
without
overcommitting kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you lose the board at around like turn 3. So if you have enough counter pressure, you can destroy this deck. And it finds success against even Paladin, because even Paladin can be a little bit slower and their main trump card's weaker to counterspell, but they don't have any way to capitalize on their board. Like, they have Stegadon as their best way to capitalize on board, and people are cutting that. But against other forms of aggressive decks, they'll get the board and kill you with it before you make it to, 9 mana usually, or 10 mana. So you can't actually deploy enough burn to kill them fast enough because of how mana inefficient the burn is.
Yeah, so the one that you want to the one that you've been playing like drops a Firefly, right, for a Thalnos?
For a Thalnos, yeah.
So what do you think about that? Yeah.
It's a very minor change, right? So it doesn't really affect all of that much. It allows me to maybe mulligan more aggressively from Mana Worm kind of thing. I've versed a lot of controlling decks, so the Thalnos is pretty sweet. It's a lot stronger than Firefly against like Rogue, for example, because it's more burn in the late game, and it's card draw to get more burn. Drawing a card is some amount of damage. So when you think about these kind of burn decks, Loot Hoarder and Novice Engineer and Thalnos and stuff like that come to mind, because you're like, well, what % chance do I have to draw a burn spell? And then do I have enough time to play the burn spell? And if the answer is yes, then you start getting damage from card draw. So against all the slow matchups, the draw is really powerful, and I've faced them a lot. I think a Warlock in particular is really tough to beat with the double Firefly list, because unless you get a really explosive early start, they can out-heal you.
Yeah. Just that extra 2 damage maybe you get out of that Thalnos.
Well, the 2 damage and the card. The card's a big deal as well.
Oh, the card too, yeah.
Right. 2 damage and a card. So your % chance to have Pyroblast on 10 goes up by a lot. Your % chance to have, double Fireball before 10 goes up a lot. Because against Warlock, you have to kill them before 10 a lot of the times.
Yeah.
They hit cooldown, they start healing, it's all over.
Yeah.
So your % chance to get enough burn by 10 goes up by a lot when adding just one card draw card. So I've been really liking the one little additional point of card draw just for having enough damage to close Warlock before 10.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about any cards that we overrated, underrated? We did this last week, which was kind of fun. Any cards that kind of stand out to you? I put Vicious Scalehide on this week, but Gaara, which one for you?
But it's a classic card.
Okay, what is it? Sure, it doesn't matter.
Armani Berserker.
Armani Berserker. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's been being played in the even.
Underrated.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of that. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, Armani Berserker. Talk about it. Like, what does it help with in the early game here?
Suddenly, even Paladin. Playing a free health minion with upside is very, very good, as it turns out. And yeah, as soon as, I don't know who included it. I saw it included
early, yeah, pretty early on.
And then suddenly everyone changed their even Paladin with double Armani Berserker. Everyone is just doing better with it. So definitely underrated 1 week ago. Now, pretty good.
Isn't it cool seeing a bunch of these basic cards coming back? It's funny.
Because the rotation really changed the stat line for a lot of minions. There are not very many good 2-drops in this game anymore. A lot of them rotated out. So a lot of people are playing 2 mana 2/3s, 3 mana 3/4s now, whereas before there used to be like much more powerful minions in those kind of slots. But like vanilla 3 mana 3/4s are also something that you'll see occasionally in Legends ladder. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, get 2-for-1s, man. It's gonna be amazing. Like, I mean, it's a great card if you can get 2-for-1 at 2. That's great.
People are also playing the snail with poisonous sometimes.
1/2?
Yeah, the 1/2 taunt.
Yeah,
there's very few good 2-drops in the game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They play that even? Okay, I guess they are playing that even somewhere, right? It's Gastropod or something right there, right?
Yeah, Gastropod.
Stubborn Gastropod. The rotation really just slaughtered aggro decks, man.
Yeah. They slaughtered aggro decks, yet there's still like a ton of aggro decks out there. They didn't do a good enough job at killing.
Well, I think the meta's more control focused.
Think so?
Even they slaughtered tempo decks, I should say, not really aggro decks. Like there's not a very strong curve of stat minions that you can play. That's why Spiteful Druid is now one of the decks with one of the stronger curves
Mm-hmm.
in the game, because they get to play the class Druid minions to help fill out the curve, which helps. But because there's always one Spiteful deck where it's just what class has the best curve, and first it's Druid now, and it's never been Druid in the past, and they didn't really get too much help with it. Just every other class's curve got a lot weaker with the 2-drops and the 3-drops and the 4-drops that are solid on curve rotating. So pretty crazy to see how much weaker you get. Aggro decks like the Mage can shine because there's nothing competing with them for stats on curve. They surrender the board on turn 3, right? So they lose to decks that continue to take the board throughout the course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
Like Mage is by far the best 1-drop in the game now. It had before already the best 1-drop, but now it's uncontested.
What, Mana War? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been the best. Crazy. Yeah. Any other underrated cards? Firebat, anything that stood out to you?
It stood out to me as something that's quite powerful.
Might have been formerly underrated.
I think Blink Fox is pretty strong.
Yeah, okay, the rogue card. Yeah.
In the odd rogue, Blink Fox is pretty powerful, actually. I kind of didn't expect it to be so good, but just giving a little bit of extra gas and allowing you to sometimes be able to have plays on even turns that you normally would be kind of hanging mana is pretty sweet. So I've been kind of impressed by that quite a bit. Druid of the Scythe is pretty powerful. Like I said, in Spiteful Druid, they now have the best curve in the game, and Druid of the Scythe is a little bit part of that. It's just a pretty powerful 3-drop compared to some of the other options. I think when evaluating these cards, I didn't realize how much weaker the 3-drop spot was going to get. But there's a lot of room for 3-drops to shine right now since the rotation. And Scale Worm, thought that card was just going to be bad, but Scale Worm's...
Wait, is that 5/4, right? The
5/4 Dragon Synergy.
Yeah.
It's a 4-mana 5/4 with Rush. Surprisingly pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think dragons would be worth playing in any deck at all. That card makes a lot of appearances and is quite good in the Dragon Synergy decks. So Dragon Synergy, it's still kind of weak this expansion, but maybe next expansion.
Yeah, it's got some foundation. Yeah, it's definitely foundational. Like there's cards that you could see at least mid game that would be good there. They're just lacking the early game. If they could if they had like Worm Rest again and things like that, oh my god, yeah, it'd be completely strong again. Like
Scale Worm is good. I did not think it would be, but it is really good. With no support, really. Said there's no early game anymore for that deck. Has literally no support, still makes an appearance and performs. So I expect that card to be played a lot after another expansion comes out, if there's anything related to dragons kind of helping it. And then Hench Clan Thug is super broken.
I mean, I think everyone thought it was going to be good.
Everyone thought it was going to be good, but it is ridiculously good. That card is single-handedly making Odd Rogue like a thing. If that didn't exist, Odd Rogue would be so much less terrifying. And it even sees appearances in Miracle Rogue and makes Miracle Rogue actually worth playing. It's
really, hard not to put in your deck. It's so easy to get great value from. Like it's almost like standard to get great value, right? Like the only negative is you have to hero power before it, to really have it just give you full value on the very first swing. So
if they don't kill it, you just win.
It's like it's got a Flappy Bird feel to it. Yeah, for sure.
You play a 3-mana 4/4 that they have to kill, otherwise you win. Like that card is absolutely insane. Odd Rogue would be much, 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 much worse without that card.
It's still funny though, because at the same time it is definitely overrated, because people expected this card to show up in all the classes that can play weapon, and it's definitely underwhelming in like Warrior and Hunter. Like people tried to make it work.
Warrior and Hunter suck.
Yeah.
It's not the card's fault. It's good, man. It's really good. Super. Like, what do you expect from the card? It's a 3-drop, man. What do you want?
I'm waiting for somebody to play Doomhammer and then just get double buffs from that bad boy when they play it down. That'd be pretty sweet.
One Shaman, here we go.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Barton Shaman. I mean, you can play Doomhammer on 5, and then you can play it afterwards. If you coin a Doomhammer, the Overload works out perfectly.
That's true.
You'll be able to play it next turn.
That's true, man.
We just created a new deck.
That's right, man. Turn 5 Shaman.
Lightning bolt.
That's all the way. Okay, well, we're gonna move on to some Q&A just to finish things out. Before we do that, I want to thank all the patrons that support the show. You guys are obviously the main support line that we have for doing these shows each and every week. So if you're interested in supporting the show, you like the show, go to patreon.com/valuetown and make a pledge today. Anything helps, man, guys. Like a quarter, a dollar, whatever you want to do per episode, that really helps out in terms of us, paying the bills, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I do want to thank all the patrons that do and have been patrons for a long time. Mike T, our legendary producer, of course, Rayden, Bob K, Gary D, Grant A, Louise L, Vince F, Alex F, Bruce W, Jonathan V, Mike O, Random Guy ASMR, Alistair M, Anthony L, and N Burst. And for all the new patrons that start up, we'll definitely be sending you guys some HS Replay coupons. Only for ones that are $5 and up. We'll be sending some coupons over to you guys to give HS Replay a try. So it's a little bit of perk for you guys, and all the ones that have been currently patrons. We at least I sent out codes last week. So let me know if you guys didn't end up getting that. Okay, next up we got Q&A. Amaden, of course, always with a question. According to the cards section in HS Replay, only Baku is in the top 30 cards in decks. If we limit to class only, Godfrey is in the top 30. Or am I using it wrong? That's what I think he was probably using it right. Only Baku in number 5 in top 30 and Godfrey number 22. So his question is the power level of this expansion too low, in y'all's opinion?
That's a really difficult question to answer. It depends on a lot of things. But first off, this is the first expansion after a rotation. So it needs to be the weakest expansion of the entire year so that they can build upon it and make the expansions in the future more are actually relevant. So it's important that it's not too strong, as well as you need to factor in at some point there's going to be like just this expansion out pretty much with the next rotation. So it's all about setting the scene for a few years. That's why it needs to be kind of weaker. Yeah, I think right now it's deceptively weaker than it actually is because of the old cards being so oppressive. We look at Death Knights, we look at Call to Arms, legendary weapons, I think things like that. The design philosophy of previous sets with the legendary weapons and Death Knights and having quests and just like these big staple cards that are better than all the other cards in the game, and that being the primary way that they designed cards, caused all of these problems where there's cards that box out other cards. I think this set's a lot more comfortably designed with a lot less flagship cards where it's like you put this in your deck, you build your entire deck around it, and then this carries your deck. We've had a lot of that in the previous
yeah,
sets.
that's the issue right now.
Yeah, and I think that's making things super polarized and making it so a lot of strategies and a lot of options get boxed out.
Gaara, your take?
I also feel like there was a huge problem last year with all the Jades and with Karazhan, that we had like a lot of cards we played like all the time, like Barnes and like Medivh and whatever, just because they were like too strong.
It's like flashy stuff, right? Like
but the problem right now, I feel overall it's very good, but like Firebat said, we still have a lot of these auto-win cards in the game. Like a lot of the bad cards rotated out, and it really reduced the overall power level of the game, but we still have all the DKs that just win you the game. We still have like the legendary weapons that just win you the game. We still have Call to Arms, so it's kind of like it's like 80% fixed or something, and 20% is still remaining, and that's still a huge problem. Like we still have the Rogue Quest and stuff like that. It did a lot of good things, but you don't really notice how good it is that this expansion is such a low power level because we still play all the overpowered broken cards.
Like there's a lot of really powerful cards in this expansion. Like Rotten Applebaum is extremely powerful, does more mana worth of stuff than how much it costs. Voodoo Doll is absolutely insane. We don't see that yet. Hench Clanthung, which we do see, is like crazy super busted compared to a lot of other previous 3-drops in the game. Lord Godfrey, which we don't actually see all that much yet, is crazy super busted for what it's doing. Even Lifedrinker is above the normal average power scale in Hearthstone for like a 4-drop. So there's a lot of cards that are, I'd say, a lot more powerful than some of the things we've had in previous sets on average. But we're just not seeing them yet. They just can't fall into shape because of the control warlocks, quest rogues, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've been saying this like just when people ask, and when I talk to people, I feel like this expansion is underappreciated. From a design standpoint, because everybody's like, well, none of these cards have any effects, and it's true, and I think that from a sales standpoint and things like that, it could be, you could easily see it as maybe like a failure because there's just nothing that's just crazy broken, and compare it to KNC where you had Void Lords and cubes and like called arms and all the just crazy stuff, right? We don't have anything quite at that level, and I think it's a as crazy as it sounds, I think it's a good decision not to continue that type of thing where you're trying to one up that, or even just like create something just as powerful in another class, and keep that up. Like what they've laid out here, like with even Hunter and like the classes that like outside of Shaman, everything else, I think they've laid out good foundations for the rest of the year. And we're not going to see the fruits of it until maybe another expansion or two, and maybe a nerf or two. But I really think they made a lot of good decisions. Like, and every time I play Hunter, I just start appreciating that class more and more. Or at least some of the new cards that they've created for that class more and more. So,
Hunter is really cool looking.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's really like, bad right now, but it looks really.
Yeah. So I'm excited for like the next expansion for Hunter, but yeah, so power level wise, yeah, it's definitely less relatively low power versus the last 3 or 4 expansions. But I think that in the long run we'll benefit from that. But we have to get some nerfs. Like if we don't have to see nerfs, we'll never appreciate some of these things that they did in this expansion.
Yeah, it's just this expansion a lot less flashy than the other ones.
Yeah.
There's way less super powerful single cards, and I really like that a lot because of all the things you're saying. We're going to have a game at the end of this where it's less reliant on drawing your Death Knight, for example, which is having Gul'dan on 10 is really important in a lot of matchups. Having Jaina on 9 is super important to the win rate if you're playing Jaina Mage. Having a Lunith in Tempo Mage dramatically affects your win rate. There's so many cards that when you draw them, you just win more. Call to Arms and Paladin, when you draw, you win more. So Keleseth, stuff like that. So there's none of those in this set. So it seems like it's less impactful. It's just a lot more building blocks than there are giant flashy draw this and win card. And I hate draw this and win cards. I've spoken a lot on a lot of different talk shows and a lot of videos of my own stream about how much I hate things like Keleseth, Barnes, the design of Gul'dan and Jaina and all these sort of things. So I'm really happy that they're moving away from that sort of flashiness and that sort of. Those are what people want, though. Those are what sells packs, believe it or not. But it's just really bad for trying to play the game competitively because your win rates start to revolve around drawing the cards that are broken.
I mean,
where would it even stop?
What was that?
Yeah,
like, if you continue this trend, like we had Keleseth, Barnes, like Spiteful, something. Where would it stop? Like we play our 1-drop and then win the game, like after 5 years.
Wow, we've had that before. It was Undertaker.
Yeah,
it's happened. We kind of have that with Mana Worm a little bit. It's not that bad, but it's not like Undertaker bad. But there has to be cards that are, maybe more powerful than other cards at some point. But you talk about when I look at cards, I think about them in the scheme of how does that fit on the average scale, which most cards fit all on a scale. Like you can calculate the value of every single card compared to the other cards and say like how much am I spending for this in terms of card and in terms of mana, is this worth whatever, and some are just like twice as good as other ones.
I mean, look at Spiteful right now, man. When you 6-drop, you get a 4/4 and a 12/12, like a large amount of times in the Druid. It's like insane. I mean,
like the problems we had like 2 years ago where they nerfed Ancient of Lore because it felt too strong because Druid had so much ramp, and then you played it like on turn 5 on average, and then drawing 2 cards felt too strong. And like 2 expansions later, we had Ultimate Infestation. and it just throws everything out of the window. Like it's like there's no more scale. Like
well, we
how
have
can you
bonfire
compare this to
elemental
it?
that's almost, you know, like Ancient of Lore a long time ago, and that's like cheaper now too, and it's kind of crazy, right? The power level clearly is like super high right now, and you know, I think if they adjust it, it's going to take a year to adjust. If they don't nerf some of these cards too. So, you know, we definitely talked about, you know, we started out the show, Firebat, you're saying that it needs a nerf. Do you think they'll nerf mid-expansion here? You know, like kind of maybe start this type of cycle where it's like, okay, we have an expansion, and then maybe 6 weeks later we do a nerf, or 8 weeks later we do a
It's
nerf.
gonna take them a while to do a nerf.
Think so?
I think for sure, like they're gonna do this whole. We have the adventure thing coming out tomorrow.
Yep.
So that's gonna draw a lot of attention away from the ladder, and especially they're gonna count that as like a big dramatic change. So it'll be another like I would say at least another
It's like,
2 weeks.
It's like the
before they
approval
start-
rate like back up.
Yeah,
It's
gonna take at least another 2 weeks before they start talking about changing something, because I think in their mind releasing the single player content counts as changing things. It counts as interacting with the community and fixing things.
Yeah.
Even though in my mind personally, I don't think of it as fixing things. I think of them as two separate entities. But they don't want to make too many changes too quickly. I think that counts as a change in their book.
Okay. So maybe a month after that, I don't know, maybe more. It's only been 2 weeks again, guys. So it's like, it's not even like the 8-week period. We could still be talking like 6 weeks from now. Would be mid expansion, you know.
I think they're gonna do single player content. They're gonna wait things out a little bit longer. Everyone's gonna for a little while we do the single player content, and then we're gonna remind them of the problems, and then they're gonna wait until we're fed up enough, and then they're gonna tease us a little bit by announcing a change, and then they're gonna make a change. They got a formula and a system to always keep us right where they want us.
I wonder what has to show up for them in the stats, though, for them to realize there's a problem. Like when you look at quest roll, for example, from stats.
Yeah. Gar's trying to game the algorithm. Like, how can we get them to do it?
We had a quest rogue previously show this exact kind of stats. It'd be kind of cool to throw a graphic up of. We don't have it, but to make a graphic where it's like quest rogue when they determined it was a problem. What are the stats? And then quest rogue now. I bet you they're the same amount of polarization as there was before when they determined, hey, we're going to nerf this because of this polarization. Well, that polarization is happening right now. So I don't understand why it's not raising alarm bells. I bet you it's very similar, if not the same. Maybe even worse polarization.
I think now it's worse because
I think the
deck is
polarization's
better.
probably worse. Yeah.
Back
the deck
then
is better.
Back then it had like worse.
Well, back then it had an two extra shadow steps because they had to play ferryman. They didn't have Sonya back then.
Sonya's
and
insane. She's so
huge problem in that
broken
deck.
in that deck. God.
Yeah.
But you only needed 4 minions to complete the quest.
Right. 4 minions with 2 extra shadow steps is you complete it really fast. Like you used to complete the quest regularly on turn 5 or 6. So that was really silly.
Not to mention just chaining like when it removes board and heals the entire time, with like scale the vicious vicious scale hide. Yeah, it's like it's incredible. Like the rogues got heal, the quest rogues got heal now too. So I think it's more dynamic than even back in the past. Might not be quite as fast. Speed wise, you think it's the same? You think it on average it completes a quest?
It's slower. It completes on like 7 or 8 now. It's way slower, but you also have to remember we play a Monty Berserker now. The game is slower. Like the rotation has made the early drops a lot weaker in Hearthstone. This is the weakest I think the early drops have ever been. Besides like vanilla Hearthstone. Even Max Rammus ramped the early drops up right away. So this is like back to vanilla Hearthstone early drop curve sort of situation. I think we have a lot more powerful late game.
When are we gonna see Croc, man?
Well, we see Plated Beetle. Plated Beetle's played an even
close. Yeah.
That's Croc with gain 3 life. That's basically River Crocolisk. We're playing River Crocolisk again. That's how bad the early drops are. But the late game and mid-range minions are a lot more powerful than vanilla Hearthstone, obviously.
Right. Somebody's asking like when the next HCT tournament is. I think it's like a week, right? It's
Taipei
really
is happening like now.
Is it? It's like this weekend then? Yeah. So
this weekend, everyone's flying out to Taipei.
Oh man, I think we'll get a good look at what this looks like now. everybody
Well,
playing those 3 decks, or
it's
if they were
a
gonna switch it up. You know, it'd be good to see if how the
deck
pros
submission
react.
for that was due like yesterday, I think. They
Oh,
submitted
okay.
decks super early, which is always a mistake. I don't don't make people submit decks early. I don't. What benefit do you get out of that? All it does usually is open opportunity for people to cheat, because it's really hard if someone misses the deck deadline to be like, all right, you booked your flight to Taipei,
Right.
which is in Taiwan, and you're from America, you're banned. So like they can't really do that.
Yeah.
And so if they're not willing to ban people from the tournament for not submitting a deck in time, then they should not have a deck deadline like that. And they've never been willing to kick people out of the tournament for that.
Well, I think people are very wary of announcing their decks like these days
Well,
too.
yeah, now,
Yeah. It's,
but still, in Hearthstone, the metagame changes so rapidly that since deck submission is so early, it's horribly run. It's horribly run. There are people that don't submit decks will get an advantage. They will not get banned. I guarantee you. If you do not submit your deck, you won't get kicked out of the tournament.
what do you mean? There has to be some deadline to submission. Like you can't just.
There is a deadline, but they do not enforce it.
No,
They
but like
do
you're telling me
not
when they
enforce-
get there, they can just go and give the admin their deck list and they'll say yes.
Wow.
No way. That's
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
really?
they book their flight.
Really?
They say they miss the deadline by a day.
That
and
day
then
is
they're
one thing, but
Then
yeah.
they're in a plane because they're traveling from America, and it takes about like
a day,
and a half or whatever to get there, and so they can't respond to you while they're in the plane, and then they can get there the day of the
God.
tournament, and then they submit their deck list, and they're in Taiwan now. What are you gonna do? Say you can't play in the tournament? You just paid $2,000 for a flight. Sorry, go home, and your hotel and everything. No tournament admin's willing to do that.
Oh,
So tournament admins need to either
get some balls.
change the rules to make them make sense, because why do you need these deck lists so early? What are you doing with them? They always say, well, we're gonna do something, make
like show them,
infographics.
but they never show them.
And they don't.
Yeah, they
So-
never do. It's like
what is the point? And then they never are willing to kick anyone out that doesn't follow the rules. Oh, they just forgot and they just got on their flight. And then a lot of these tournament admins don't play Hearthstone, so they don't understand how big of an advantage that is and how big of a deal that is.
right.
So, I mean, it is a huge problem right now. So,
I mean, they should. I mean, if they make a deadline, they should just adhere to it. Like, if you come, it's too bad. You know, it's like that's in the rules, right? So I don't think anybody would be pissed. I mean, obviously there are these weird situations, and
I guarantee you, what's going to happen is you kick a guy out for not submitting his time. He's flown all the way there. He's going to make this giant rant about how he did no wrong and that he's getting screwed and the whole system's against him.
Yeah.
He just missed one thing and
wrong.
he wasn't trying to cheat. But yeah, people will back him and support him because he lost all this money. But it's wrong. And if you want to play the game, and if you want to play the game seriously and you want everyone to take the game seriously, you need to follow the rules seriously. And we don't do that in competitive Hearthstone. We don't enforce rules, which is...
if you don't enforce rules, nobody will respect the rules. So you got to do that, number one. And I think that if you just say it, like if you present it in the way like, hey, you don't get your deck in, you booked your flight, it's too bad. Like if you present it like that, then I think it's much harder for people to really, throw those type of Reddit rants and have the whole community support them if you're just very straightforward with that. So, that's great. Yeah, hopefully people adhere to the rules.
Show, I guess.
Let's just hope people adhere to the rules so that we can just see, what everybody brings. And I'm hoping it's more than just the stale type of 3 classes that we were talking about earlier, and we see some. God, can you imagine if we saw a shaman? Can you imagine if we saw a Shudderwock shaman in HCT? Oh man.
Shudderwock shaman
doesn't beat anything.
Not the combo version, but like there might be some sort of anti-aggro controlling Shudderwock that does well versus Paladin, for example, or something. Because the strategies are going to be either bring the best decks, so Warlock, Paladin, and at the time, Spiteful Druid potentially might have shifted right before deck submission. But so some alignment of those 3 kind of decks, or try and counter the weakest link of those decks. And you can't really counter Spiteful super consistently because occasionally they just draw Spiteful, get Tyrannodus, and you're screwed. And then you can't counter Warlock consistently because they can always high roll you with cube stuff. So then you go for countering Paladin, and then you try and play, all the decks could be paladins, like Control Warlock with the Dreadlords, maybe some sort of Jaina Mage tech to do it and that kind of stuff. So I think it's either going to be the best decks or people trying to counter Paladin.
Well,
and the question becomes which is more consistent.
What's nice is they can ban a deck, so they can really, like, at least there'll be different strategies, and I think the variety in the decks will increase because of the fact that they're building around a ban. So that'll be nice to see. I think that's about the only thing that will break up the potential monotony of what we see on the ladder.
And I think the most common ban's actually not going to be Warlock. I think it'll be Quest Rogue.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then that's good though, because then you'll see some more control decks being brought to the tournament. It might be fun to see.
Yeah, there's not enough aggro decks to where you can bring a lineup where Quest Rogue doesn't get a free win. Like, there's just not enough things that can kill Quest Rogue fast enough. You have to bring controlling decks.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's going to be fun to watch. And Taipei, it's probably going to be in the middle of the night, right? Like in the morning or something, right? Like, I think the hours are probably going to be horrible to watch it, but hopefully people can catch the VODs, and we'll definitely talk about it next week. But all right, well, let's wrap up, guys. Great show. Always, always amazing to get your insight, Firebat, and have you, discuss the meta. You're always like super smart with it. So, thanks for joining us. And any shout outs you want to do before you take off?
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
It was fun.
It's been a while, so it's like, yeah, definitely great to have you on. Gaara, how about you?
Shout out to my stream and to my Twitter down there. Shout out to Firebat. It was very awesome to hear his insight. Shout out to the viewers. Yeah. They're lovely as ever, pretty sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the chat.
You can't see them, right? So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're very lovely.
Yeah, they've been
people.
great. Yeah,
not spamming or anything. Yeah.
All right, and I'll round things out. Thank you, the two of you guys, and then everybody else, for watching and commenting. It's been a great chat. They've definitely been very nice. Our chat's always great. I don't think we have enough people where it gets toxic, so it's definitely good that way. But you can follow us obviously on the Twitters. You can see us all the Twitters there. Follow the show at ValueTownGG. You can find the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV and youtube.com/HSReplay.net too. So we're trying to get some people over there too. And you can find us on iTunes as well as Google Play and SoundCloud.com/ChanManV. If you are listening, leave us a review too. If you guys are you just enjoy the show and want people to find it too, because we definitely want people to find this podcast. And that's going to be it, guys, for this week. So for Firebat, Gaara, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week.